Thor, his servant Thjalfi, and Loki were all exploring the kingdom of the giants, and they finally arrived at the enormous castle of Utgaror. The Aesir gods entered the palace and encountered the huge giants who lived there. The one who stood out the most welcomed them.
"Welcome to my palace. I'm the lord of this palace. I have always heard that you Asgardians consider yourselves to be the greatest of all. How about we take part in a dispute? I can defeat you in any kind of competition you can imagine," said Thor with confidence. "Calm down, Odin's son. The first to compete will be Loki, son of the glorious giant Loki."
Loki would face Logi, the giant's servant, to know who could eat the banquet on the table more quickly. Loki and Logi started eating all the food with incredible speed, and they both finished at the same time. Loki ate all the food, but the giant Logi ate even the bones, platters, and cutlery, so he was declared the winner. The servant Thjalfi also engaged in a race against a giant who was still a child. Thjalfi was one of the fastest men that ever lived, yet he had no chance against the hasty giant boy.
"For you, mighty Thor, I pose 3 challenges. First, you should drink all the beverage in this horn at one go."
Thor grabbed the horn with confidence, as drinking a lot was one of his skills. The god drank, and drank that salty liquid until he reached his limit. But he only managed to decrease the liquid that filled the horn a little bit.
"Ha ha ha! You drink like a maid. I'll make it easier for you. In this next race, you will have to lift my pet cat."
"You got to be kidding me," said Thor, approaching the cat. Much to Thor's surprise, the cat was incredibly heavy. The god of thunder managed to lift the cat over his head, but it could still touch the ground with its paws.
"It appears that the stories they tell about you are just legends, and you cannot lift a cat up. In your last ordeal, you must fight my foster mother."
That was when an old giantess appeared in the room. Thor felt offended for having to fight this old woman, but he decided to fight her to secure at least one win for Asgard's team. The fight began, and Thor was surprised by the old giantess's strength. The god used all his strength against the old lady, and at times, it appeared that the victory was in his hands. But the old woman managed to drop Thor to his knees. Defeated, the gods and their servant left the Utgaror palace, with their heads pointing down. The king of the giants followed the Asgardians to his kingdom's boundaries, and, when saying goodbye, he declared,
"Now that we're alone, I can tell you a secret. I have fooled you all along."
The king of the giants said that he had disguised himself as the giant Skrymir, the one who had guided Thor and his fellows through Jotunheimer. And, had he not had used magic at that moment, he would have been dead. After all, when Thor tried to hit his head with his hammer, the god hit a mountain instead, turning the hill into a valley.
"Dear Loki, you also have been deceived by an illusion. Actually, you were competing against a fire, and that fire engulfs everything in its path. You, Thjalfi, you competed against a thought, and even though you are extremely fast, nothing is faster than a thought." "And what sort of tricks did you use against me in your palace?" said Thor, demanding an explanation. "Now that we no longer have an audience, I can praise you for your strength and determination." The giant explained that the horn grabbed by Thor was connected to the ocean, so Thor was able to bring the sea level down a few meters, which was an incredible feat. As for the cat, he was actually lifting Jormungand, the world's serpent, and the mere fact that Thor could raise part of the snake off the ground was a huge accomplishment. Nevertheless, what stunned the giant the most was that Thor almost defeated the old woman, who was oldness itself, and time beats everyone down the road. Thor despised being tricked, and he would have crushed the giant, but he relied on his magic to vanish, along with his castle, for he feared the god's vengeance. The gods returned to Asgard. Thor knew that beating oldness or drinking all the water from the ocean was impossible, but defeating the world's snake was something he deemed feasible. And because of that, Thor started to wish to cross paths with Jormungand again, just to have the opportunity to beat it.